Hello everyone, and welcome to our video. We have Tony from Hard4Games, and we're going to be giving our predictions for the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. Now, last year, there was a lot of controversy, I'll say, due to some fans not necessarily liking the quality of the Mario anniversary. So take that into mind with your predictions, because Nintendo could go all out and give us like the best possible remakes where the Mario team just kind of did whatever they could. Who knows what happened? Especially considering Nintendo already has proper remakes or remasters of like the 3D Ocarina of Time and the Wii U Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, so who really knows? But anyways, we're going to be giving our predictions, starting with Daniel.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, for all the people that's been asking about Breath of the Wild 2, even if it's not included in your 2021 prediction for the anniversary of Zelda, give a month or when you think a new trailer might come for Breath of the Wild 2, as well as what time you think it may actually release. So, two bonus things and the actual 35th anniversary prediction. So, Daniel, since you were the quiet one on the last stream, you go first.
Sure. So, I mean, I feel like Zelda's too big of a series for them to ignore, like Metroid. So, which makes my fanboy heart sink every time I think about how they literally did nothing for the 30th anniversary of Metroid. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we could get some good re-releases. I don't know. I want to be hopeful and say there will be a cool collector's. He's back.
He's back-ish.
Yeah, sorry guys.
You just have to keep Discord, I guess. You can't look at anything else, otherwise Discord decides to quit on you.
Alright, so the last thing I heard before it cut out was cool collectors thing.
Oh yeah, a cool collector's pack or something would be, I don't think too out of the question. They gave us one on the GameCube, which I guess is a while ago, but it doesn't feel like that long ago to me. But they haven't really done any other like collector's editions since. It's like they have with Mario. Like Mario really got a lot of those. Like they got All Stars a couple times, and then they got now 3D All Stars. And I feel like Nintendo could just throw Mario out the window and it'll sell every time. Not to say that it doesn't with Zelda, but I feel like they're a little more precise with their Zelda releases. So, but yeah, I think you like a tying together a trilogy pack for Zelda is a little trickier though than Mario. But
do you think it would be trilogy?
I mean, often these things are, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Trilogy feels right to me, like emotionally, or just like when you think of, oh, they're going to come with a pack of games. Usually it's trilogy, right?
Yeah.
But like often. Mario, the 3D All Stars, their trilogy of games there, it's like, oh, he was one from each console generation. So it's sort of representative of Mario's sort of history. But Mario, from a lore standpoint, if you want to get into that, there's really not much to discuss there. They're just they're all sort of their own self-contained thing. They're all just Mario games, right?
How dare you?
I know, so it's controversial. Where Zelda's got this whole big thing, so it's like trying to map out like what trilogy of game they release for Zelda is like so. Well, what sort of line of timeline do you want to follow? It's so much more complicated. I think because they've established all this story stuff, right? And also for most Zelda games, there's a billion different ways you could play it. Like if you want to play Zelda 1, there's so many different ways you can play Zelda 1 on basically every device Nintendo's ever created, right? Or at least close to it. So I think they had it on GBA, and you can definitely get it on 3DS eShop and Wii Virtual Console and Wii U, and it's on Switch Online, and it's on the Nintendo Classic Edition, and so I don't know, like just a lot of the classics.
Even the Super Nintendo had that weird online remake thing that they did.
Yes, Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That pseudo sequel.
Broadcast system or broadcast satellite, not the other kind of BS. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's hard for me to say prediction wise, like what kind of games they might come out with. I think merch wise, they would be foolish not to do anything like if they're gonna give us Mario pins, why not Zelda pins? I guess, but who knows? It's really hard to say. I would like to see a Breath of the Wild 2 trailer at some point this year. I feel like maybe in the summer, or if they do an E3 sort of thing, maybe around that time, if E3 even exists this year, because it didn't last year. But who knows? Game companies might still decide to do something around that time of when E3 should happen, or maybe it just will happen like normal. So, we might get a trailer, I think, around then, but maybe just a short one. They might just give us radio silence, right? So I could be wrong about everything.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm really rambling at this point, but yeah.
All right, Tony.
So when I saw this question, I was trying to go back and think about what they did for the 25th anniversary, and I created a basic list, so that Skyward Sword came out around that time, and then there was a splash screen, when you loaded it up, and there's a reference to the Skyloft Knight Academy. It's 25th anniversary. There's a little wink and a nudge, There was some merch. There was the 25th anniversary, like orchestral CD, the soundtrack, and then also there were probably on the larger end they released Hyrule Historia, for the 25th.
Right.
So, on the one hand, like Daniel had mentioned, like it's with Mario, like Mario has hardcore fans and it also has lots of casual fans. I feel like the casual fan base of Zelda is less than the casual fan base of Mario, right? So like they kind of have to be, like you said, more precise in terms of the content they release for Zelda, whereas they can just like totally be super lazy, like Nintendo levels of lazy with Mario, and release a pack with like they did, and have it be just like okay, or like they did with the Super Mario All Stars on the Wii, that was just like 4 megabytes of data, like a Wii disc or whatever it ended up being. So I think ultimately what they're most likely going to do is something stupid. I think that it'll be a limited edition amiibo that some people will care about, and we'll all quickly forget it exists. Some sort of, well, that's okay. But but it ain't no game,
for sure.
They'll do some sort of Smash Bros. Skin or limited edition.
Spirits, right?
Character, whatever it is. I don't play Smash Brothers, but maybe you guys do. So there'll be something with that game where you fight people as Nintendo characters that the kids are playing. They'll do an updated Historia, maybe. And then I think they'll give us a release for Breath of the Wild 2. They'll give us a date. Not they might not release it in 2021, but they'll give us a date, I think, and some merch. I think that would be on the more boring end of the spectrum of what they do. I think on the more exciting end of the spectrum, they may remake a game like Skyward Sword, because that was their 25th anniversary. Maybe for the 35th, 10 years later, the 10-year anniversary of Skyward Sword, it gets an HD remaster. And because of Nintendo, it retains the feature of when Link finds anything, it gives you a 45-minute explanation of what it is.
Right, every time.
Every time, because that's a feature, not a bug. And you find bugs in that game, and it tells you about them. So
you can find bugs to trigger the bug.
There you go.
You mean feature?
The feature. So I think on the better end of the spectrum, they'll do like an updated Hyrule Historia. They'll do some cool, some really cool merch, and maybe they'll remaster a game. Will there be a game pack? We haven't seen a game pack of Zelda titles since like 2002, like with Wind Waker, 2001, or whenever that game released. It's been 20 years since they did a game pack of Zelda. In the meantime, they've done 2 additional game packs of Mario in that period of time. So I don't think we're going to get a game like any sort of trilogy, but I could be wrong. So, anyways, I hate to be downtrodden, but the Nintendo I know and love is lazy, and my guess is that it won't be much.
No, I'm kind of with you there, honestly. So,
Yeah.
and Mario is like they can put out whatever they want with Mario, and it'll sell. Like everybody loves Mario.
Well, you
right?
got to keep in mind, like people are like, oh, it's so, Sunshine is so lazy. You see these, like, for example, the debug cubes in that one particular level. Like 99% of the people that bought that game don't know what debug cubes are and don't see that as an issue and like don't care. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just, I don't know. I think that they know that they can just do their thing. I think Nintendo's often on fire, but when it comes to like fan servicey stuff, it's just kind of like whatever. They're like,
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
I like it.
Like a trilogy pack or a game, a collector's edition. Like you said, there hasn't been one, but as I was mentioning earlier, like I don't think you could really pair up any like just 3 or 4 games or whatever, and it feel like quite right for them to be paired up anyways.
Yeah.
Just even from a fan standpoint,
You could maybe do like chronological stuff, like Zelda 1, 2, and 3, Link to the Past, or you could do Ocarina of Majora's Wind Waker. You know what I mean? Like you could kind of, but once you get to like past Majora's Mask, it's like, well, would you pair? You have a split timeline, so would you pair it with Wind Waker, or would you pair it with Twilight Princess? And then you have Skyward Sword, which goes back in time and doesn't really connect to anything other than it being kind of a genesis of the series. So it becomes needlessly complicated at that point to try to find like a themed pairing, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. They might do like you mentioned spirits in Smash or whatever you want to call it. They have those spirits thing that nobody pays attention to, or at least I don't. And they always have those events and stuff going on for every little thing. So I have no doubt that they would do something in Smash Bros. There. But yeah, I think honestly, I think I'm on board with everything you said. But
remake of Spirit Tracks.
Oh boy. Oh, if they could put it on mobile, and I would just cry and cry.
That's the one Zelda game I started, other than Zelda 2, just because I was like, it's not. Just couldn't bring myself to finish it. I just couldn't do it.
I liked Spirit Tracks.
Okay. It's not everyone's cup of tea.
Daniel recently tortured himself to.
That's okay.
No, Daniel recently tortured himself by playing through Zelda 2.
Yeah,
I've streamed just about every Zelda game now, but Spirit Tracks was one where I typically just try and do 100% complete it, all the side quests, everything. But Spirit Tracks, when I was doing it, like my Twitch chat was literally like, we can't keep going, move on to the next game, and they bullied me into just wrapping it up and moving on. So, yeah, it was a time.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But if they put it on mobile, I will cry, not tears of joy.
How can we make the game work?
Is the YouTube stream still going? Because OBS
seems to be.
Says it is, but there's a yellow bar on YouTube saying that it's not. All right.
Looks good to me.
It's still going.
Maybe it's just a weird thing with YouTube. But yeah, so...
Tears of Joy is where it's at right now.
Do you have any final things on your list that you wrote down for the 35th?
Not on my end.
Right.
That pretty much covers it. It was just sort of a tirade. I'm sorry.
All right. I was going to start mine off by saying I don't want to break people's hearts who have their expectations set too high, but you guys are kind of at the same level that I'm at on this. So whenever I started thinking about this, after the Mario 35th anniversary was announced, everyone started making, like, you've seen everyone photoshopping their dream games in a collection and everything. And it would be tons of different things, but just like Tony said, there's no real way that you could have it to where it's like just 3 games and it still feels right, because you either have Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and then Wind Waker, but then like Wind Waker kind of feels odd in a collection without Twilight Princess. And then and then if you skipped Wind Waker and just went to Twilight Princess, it like might fit more aesthetically with the visuals, but then you're missing Like it's just like a weird thing.
Well, and either way, you'll have camps of fans who will just be angry no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Like you will have, if they did like Skyward Sword, Ocarina, Wind Waker, you're gonna have the hardcore Twilight Princess fans coming out with their torches and pitchforks and like
no exaggeration.
There's no win.
Tony. We I think it was like one of the first podcasts that we did once we got home from E3. Were we? What, Tony?
I think I know which one you're talking about. But go on.
Oh, I thought Tony said something.
Oh no, I said
Okay, so we had we met one of Chiblima's friends, one of our other co-hosts who's not on here. We had one of her friends on that we had met there, N64 Josh, and we talked about some controversy that was going on, just because to us it was just so ridiculous. But everyone was mad. That's a good word to use. Everyone was mad that the trees in the Pokemon game did not look as good as they could have looked on the Switch for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And so we made the video talking about it and giving our thoughts, and then almost every comment that we got ended up in like the spam folder, because it was people that were mad about the trees telling us that they were now mad at us and other choice words for not being upset about the trees. So
Game Freak and the Pokemon Company are also, they're also known for recycling assets, and Sword and Shield were kind of their first foray, other than Let's Go, which weren't they were 3D, but they kind of weren't like exploratory, behind the shoulder type of 3D,
Right.
So they I haven't played them, but I've heard amazing things about them. I've watched people play them, but
fun, yeah.
The company that makes those games isn't known for like incredible levels of detail.
Right.
That's not their jam.
And
that's not what they're all about.
I think the only time that they did show off a lot of really good detail was with the Zelda Wii U tech demo, and that's all that was just a tech demo. And then, but anyways, with everyone that was getting upset with the 35th anniversary, the way that I looked at it was to maybe try to justify in my head, or like just trying my best to give Nintendo a reason that they did this instead of doing what it could have been, which was just like an actual HD remake of all the other games. Because even the Super Mario 64, like, it wasn't widescreen, and it still had the clunky controls instead of
camera.
Like there was the fan-made 64 port for the Switch that had the right analog control, didn't it? Or was it
I'm not sure.
the same?
I remember there being a widescreen version.
Yeah, they updated it to 60
modern
frames and made it HD and everything.
Yeah. So it's like, there's always going to be instances where, but especially with Nintendo, the modders do a little bit better job of it. Unfortunately, I don't know why they made the decisions that they made, but I'm not mad. I'm just befuddled.
Yeah. So in my head, the reason that I gave them was that with this being an anniversary collection instead of an HD collection, my thought was they put it out similar to the way that they did their old ones, to where they didn't want to change much because they wanted to. It was more of a way to preserve the game as it was at the time, since it was supposed to be like a celebration of Mario's history, instead of here are 3 Mario games in an HD collection, which is what everyone's expecting or wanting with the Zelda anniversary. But if they end up going the same way, which they could because it's Nintendo, and if they released the Mario games this way, then they might release the Zelda games this way, especially since with the Zelda collection, it's probably not going to sell as much as the Mario collection. So would they spend more money making the Zelda game better than they did with the Mario game, when they know the Zelda game's probably not going to make nearly as much money? So you would think it would have been the other way, to where they'd put more money in the Mario because they know it's going to make more. But anyways, but they have kind of a way out of that, to where before they had I wouldn't even call it an upgraded version, but they had the other DS version of Super Mario 64 that still ran at 240p, I think. I think they technically have the same resolution, but it just had updated textures and a weird way to play because you had to use the stick or the stylus.
Mm-hmm. You use the D-pad for that. You're talking about the Mario DS?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't use the...
Yeah, that was D-pad.
That was the D-pad.
Yeah, so...
Which still feels weird because, I don't know, I feel like a 3D game like that just wasn't made for the D-pad, right?
Yeah. So they had that for Super Mario 64. They've never done anything with Super Mario Sunshine. So the only version of that they had was the GameCube version. And something similar with Galaxy, to where in China, on again, going back to the weird China laws because of having weird video game laws there, the Nintendo and NVIDIA, who makes the CPU and hardware for the Switch, their NVIDIA Shield, which is just like basically a gaming tablet thing that you can also plug into your TV, they put a bunch of Nintendo games on it for people to play, like a weird version of Twilight Princess that was a mix of the HD version and the GameCube version. And then they had like Super Mario Galaxy and some other stuff on there. And so they had like a weird version of Super Mario Galaxy that they could have put on the Switch for this collection. But from what I read, it's like half emulated and then half of the engine's running natively instead of one or the other, because it's not quite powerful enough to emulate Galaxy, but they didn't want to take the time to natively port it all the way to the Switch. They just thought it would be good running as it was. So it's a really weird thing. But with Zelda, they already have the remakes of the N64 games that look good if it's up-resed, and I think they could easily put better textures on there. So they could put those out on a collection if they didn't want to put the 64 games. And then Wind Waker, unlike the Mario game on the GameCube, it's already remade. Twilight Princess, it's already got a remake as well. The only one that doesn't is Skyward Sword. And there was a bunch of people that put Skyward Sword on their collection, but I don't think Nintendo would do that because they know it hasn't been remade yet. And if they remade it by itself, they could just sell it for $60 instead of selling it as part of a collection. So if we did get a collection, I don't think Skyward Sword would be there. I think it would be something like what Nintendo did with Mario, to where they're like, here are these 3 games. The first and only Nintendo 64 Mario game, the first GameCube Mario game, and the first Wii Mario game. And I think it might be something similar with Zelda, if they did put 3 games on there, to where you would get Ocarina, Wind Waker, and then Twilight Princess. And then Skyward Sword would be like how they did Super Mario
Twilight Princess
3D.
Was kind of on that line though, because it was technically the first like Wii Zelda game, but it was also the last GameCube Zelda game.
Right.
So it's from that kind of standpoint, if you wanted to do it that way, like Skyward Sword should be the better fit because technically it was the one that was designed from the ground up for the Wii. Twilight Princess was really the GameCube game, and then they were almost done it, and they're like, you know what, actually, let's add the waggle.
Yeah.
So
kind of like Breath of the Wild with the Wii U and the Switch.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly like that. So, minus the waggle. So, yeah, I don't know. Like Skyward Sword feels like the better pick than if you want to do it from the generational console standpoint. But then, like you said, I actually really agree with what you said. Is that Nintendo, if they remade Skyward Sword in HD, they're probably going to charge you full price for it, not put it in a collector's pack. So yeah.
And then
either that or they just do a straight port and don't really do any remaking of it. Then probably I could see them happening more. If they just didn't do any remakes or touch-ups stuff to it, they were just like, oh, you just port the game as it is. Then sure.
So
then yeah.
That's
sorry.
No. That's just how I would see them doing it. But I don't know if they would be complete, because they can be lazy in both of these situations. So it works out with everyone's logic about Nintendo to where they could be really, really lazy and just give us the N64 versions that's already made. But unlike the Mario remake or the Mario collection, they already have these Zelda remakes of these games done. So they could just port those to the Switch instead of the original version. So either way, they have their option of how lazy they want to be. Because on either version, like if you get the 3D games and then one of the HD games, you're not getting, like they're not having to go in and completely remake an entire game like they did with the DLC with Super Mario 3D World, like the port of it that they're doing. So I think it could be something like that, to where you get the 3 games, maybe 4 if we're lucky, to where it's Ocarina, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. That would be a lot, but could be possible. Who knows? And then they say this is limited or whatever, and then later on, like look forward to this other Skyward Sword HD down the line. And I think it could be something like that. And I think that they will do a book again, but I don't know if they would do it for the anniversary. They may announce it for the anniversary, but then release it after Breath of the Wild 2, like they did with the original Breath of the Wild book. That way they can have all of the information about the new game instead of having to do it. It's kind of, I don't know. But anyways, that's my thought on that. And I'm probably completely wrong, but
we could all be wrong.
We'll find out in a couple of months. They
could come out swinging and give us the best anniversary of a video game ever. Who knows? Yeah. Or it could be literally.
I think aesthetically, and they could do this, instead of having one collection of 3 games or 4 games, they could have like the 3D collection and then the HD collection, to where it's the 3DS remakes on one cartridge and then the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, because that would fit better, because then you have the 2 GameCube games and the 2 N64 games. But then you would still have people, even though they're getting remakes of all the games this way, they're still going to say, well, now I have to buy 2 instead of the thing. But I don't know.
I think they'd be more likely to do what you just suggested. Combine the 3DS games and that way they like at least like look similar, because if you don't touch those up, you know, you're going through from a low, although it's a much higher poly count than the N64, you're going from a low resolution, like blowing it up on your, you know, your HD TV, and it'll look rough and jaggy, you know. But so if you have like similar looking games in the same collection and kind of with an explainer as to like where they're coming from, that would probably make a lot of sense. And then you have your HD collection where, like you said, you have your remasters on that one.
Because the reason I say that is like it just feels incomplete. Like there would be a lot of people with OCD that would just break their case because they would see Ocarina of Time without Majora's Mask, and everyone usually thinks of those 2 games like as a couple. So it's like you would look at it, and even though in the same way they did Mario, to where it's like the first game from each console, it makes sense if they did it the same pattern, but it would just, like if it went from Ocarina to Wind Waker to Twilight Princess, everyone would just be like, but why? Like, it's the same engine and everything. You could just port it the same way. But anyways, and the trailer, I think we will get it on the same day in February. And I'll go a step further and say, I went back and listened to a few. I just dropped it. I listened to a few of the interviews that we did with some of the voice actors from Breath of the Wild, and then again when we interviewed some of them for Age of Calamity. And they started in March and finished audio in June for Age of Calamity. And I think they said the same months for when they did Breath of the Wild. So if that follows again, then it could mean Breath of the Wild 2 audio could start this March and go to June, since it did the same months for the other 2 games. But that's just speculation. And, but if they did do that, then they wouldn't have the English audio ready for a potential trailer. But they didn't come out with the English audio and a trailer for Breath of the Wild until way later anyways. Because at first it was just
there was like no dialogue or anything to need an audio.
It's like, here's Link on a horse.
Yeah. So
all right. So this is up to you, Tony. Do you want to do the theory, or we can hurry up and do the 3 questions for the mailbag? It's all up to you.
What are the mailbag? I don't know.
It's just people in the chat asking questions.
It seems like people are just arguing about demise.
They really are. And I keep glancing over and I'm like, settle down, children, settle down. So.
Let me, because I've been keeping up with it, which is my eyes are kind of darting all over the place. But I mean, do you see some that are non-demise related? I also don't mind the theory ones. I wrote down a couple of them that I thought were silly.
All right, we can try to get through that really quick. And everyone in the chat, give us your questions. And if you send a super chat, then we'll answer it immediately. But we'll try to get through this theory thing, because I've been looking forward to this. So you already have yours written down, you said.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my Word doc up.
All right. Do you have yours already thought of, Daniel?
So this is just to clarify ground rules, just like old theories that
you either made or you used to believe.
Are not really a fan of anymore, but maybe used to be, that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah, because
then yes, I've got one.
We did I'll explain it in the intro for this section. All right.